Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera and good afternoon to our honorable lecturer, Dr. Nur Islami binti Muhammad Fahmi Teng, our facilitators, Sir Nazrul Hadi Ismail, lecturers and also our fellow friends. So, welcome to today's webinar session and we are so glad that you could join us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I will introduce myself first. So, my name is Alina Hanis binti Abdul Alim, your moderators for today. So, for today's webinar, the title is called Debunk the Cancer Nutrition Myth. So before we start, I want to ask you guys, so what are the most interesting myths have you ever heard before? So for me, I have heard a lot of nutrition myths, and the most interesting one is about detox product, such as detox tea, detox water, and then they have juice cleansers and detox supplement that claim that can help with weight reduction and also toxin removal. Okay, actually there is no research that claiming this detox product can actually help with detoxification and also weight loss. So what actually can help you guys is actually by drinking enough water every day. So actually drinking water has been linked to reduce hunger. So if you take your water before meal, so you may eat less. So for the detox products such as juice cleansers, that actually has claimed that it has a cleansing effect to your gut. Actually what happening is it has a very high amount of fructose that comes from the vegetable sugars and also fruit sugars that can cause a spasming effect to your guts. That's why we believe that it has a cleansing effect. So actually it's not. So it actually has a very high amount of fructose that's come from the fruits and also sugar. So now you have the knowledge. I give one myth for you. So what you guys can do now, change that perspective, that belief, and you have the knowledge now because you have the knowledge now, so make a better choice lah. So what kind of choice we have? So we have fiber. So actually fiber is our natural detox. So take your enough fiber, 20 to 30 grams per day. So that is about nutrition related myths. So let's get back to our topic, which is debunk the cancer nutrition myth. Before I introduce you guys with our panelists for today's webinar, so I would like to share briefly a few things about cancer. So firstly, according to the National Cancer Institute, cancer is defined as a group of diseases in which abnormal cells in our body divide without control and can invade other nearby tissue. It also can be spread to other parts of body through blood and also lymph system. So actually there are more than 100 types of cancer identified. The major cancer types were known as sarcoma, carcinoma, lymphoma and also leukemia. So is it classified according to the types of fluids or tissue from which they originate. So some cancer are also mixed type. So nowadays, actually cancer is known as one of the leading factors of death worldwide. According to the National Cancer Institute again, cancer contribute to 9.5 million deaths worldwide in 2018, while in Malaysia, cancer is the fourth leading factor of death. According to the Malaysian study on cancer survival 2018, cancer contributes to 12.6% death in the government hospital, while 26.7% in private hospital. Okay, so in addition to that, common cancer among Malaysian residents were breast cancer, followed by colorectal cancer and also lung cancer. Breast cancer as we all know, is commonly among female, while colorectal cancer are common found in male. So studies found that there were various factors that can contribute to the risk of cancer, such as having a unhealthy lifestyle, smoking, physical inactivity, as well as dietary behavior. So ladies and gentlemen, for today's session, we will focus on the nutrition the role of nutrition in the cancer. So for your information, studies on the role of nutrition has arisen and it's becoming clear that nutrition plays a major role in cancer prevention and also as one of the factors that may contribute to the cause of the cancer. So however, with so much information about what to eat and what not to eat, knowing what helps that and what's scientifically proven can be difficult. So this session will break down some of the most talked about controversies in food and nutrition related to cancer and answer your question about why and how to eat to live well every day. Okay, so before that, I would like to spend a few minutes with you guys to watch this video on what Malaysian opinion regarding to the myth of cancer nutrition.
Assalamualaikum, Cik.
Waalaikumsalam.
Cik, sorry ambil masa sekejap. Nak tanya Cik boleh?
Boleh.
Cik pernah dengar tak mitos pasal kanser? Apa-apa mitos pasal kanser? Mitos makanan?
Saya pernah dengar mitos berkenaan dengan orang bilang kalau gula dengan susu boleh menyebabkan kanser.
So jadi Encik percaya tak susu dan gula tu boleh menyebabkan kanser?
Bagi saya lah kan, saya rasa tak, sebab yalah, susu kan bagus untuk badan sebenarnya. Gula tu kalau kita tidaklah boleh ambil lebih daripada yang sepatutnya, takut nanti diabetes pula.
Faham.
Sebab mustahil lah kalau dia boleh menyebabkan kanser.
Okey, baik. Terima kasih, Cik.
Okey, sama-sama.
Awak minum kopi tak? Saya memang tak minum kopi. Saya baca dekat US, orang tak beli kopi dekat Starbucks dengan McD sebab kopi ni boleh sebabkan kanser. So buat apa lagi nak minum kopi?
What? Do you really believe that coffee can cause cancer?
Alright, before we begin, I would like to take a minute to briefly introduce you to our panels today. So we have with us Ms. Nurul Syafiqah binti Abdul Ghani and also Ms. Ain Farhin binti Pitalao. Both of them were final year student in Bachelor of Dietetic UiTM Puncak Alam. So welcome Ms. Ain and Ms. Syafiqah. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine too. Thank you.
All right. So we will begin our first session with our first panel, which is Miss Shafika. So Miss Shafika, we heard various rumors that certain foods, such as coffee, red meat, sugar, and meat or dairy product can cause cancer. However, we also can see that various studies reveal the opposite result. So, what is your opinion regarding this issue?
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miss Adina, for that question. Yes, it is true that we heard various rumors on food that can contribute to the development of cancer. For instance, consuming coffee and eating red meat can cause you to have cancer. This is actually not a good fact, and we must try to correct the public on the myths behind these issues. And then certain posts from any social media or any unauthorized website do claim that coffee and red meat may cause cancer without further explanation of how these two foods may cause cancer. So usually individuals with deficit knowledge may change their mindset towards these two foods as they read on these issues without further reading or research in these issues. So what is the implication of this misbelief is that it would lead them to be not only ineffective but also risky and inappropriate dietary choices.
Right. That's the answer for the first. And then we will move to the question. So, Miss Shafika, I had heard about the content of acrylamide in the coffee. And what is actually acrylamide? And what do we know about its link with cancer? Can you answer?
Yes, it is true that coffee contains acrylamide. So firstly, what is acrylamide? Acrylamide is a chemical substance that is used in certain industrial processes such as food processing, plastics, cosmetics, and also agricultural industries. It has also been available commercially since 1950s. Other than coffee, acrylamide can also be found in food that requires high temperature in terms of its preparation. For instance, in toasted bread, French fries, and also in snack food such as potato chips. The International Agency on Research on Cancer classified acrylamide as the probable human carcinogen, which may cause cancer to the human. Similarly, current research from particular organizations such as the U.S. National Toxicology Program and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency also classified these as carcinogenic. However, it should be noted that all of these determinations were based mainly on studies on lab animals and not direct exposure from people to acrylamide from food. Moreover, recent studies between 2011 and 2014 summarized that there were no associations found in dietary acrylamide and risk of cancer in the evidence of humans.
Thank you, Ms. Shafika, for the clarification. We did mention the carcinogen before. So, is it true that carcinogens were the roots of cancer? And can you briefly explain to us?
Thank you, Ms. Alina, for that question. I have mentioned just now that acrylamide is one type of carcinogen. So before I explained the carcinogen, the relation of carcinogen with cancer, so what is carcinogen? According to the National Cancer Institute, briefly it means any substance that causes cancer. It can be a physical, a chemical, or viral agents that induce cancer. We have heard a rumor that a small amount of carcinogens have been blamed as the root of cancer. Some carcinogens exist naturally, for example, pyrrolizidine alkaloids exist in many plants. Some carcinogens are produced when foods are browned or burned. For example, nitrosamines generated from natural or added nitrates and amines and possibly rancid fats. Other food carcinogens are caused by contamination, like aflatoxin, which is one of several carcinogens transferred from molds to foods found in corn, grain, peanut butter, bread, cheese, fruit, and apple juice. So the critical question is whether or not these chemicals are really hazardous to health if they are eaten in small amounts with other food constituents which may be protective. To date, there is no evidence that these chemicals play a major role in cancer. There is one guideline to consider is from the American Institute for Cancer Research, AICR, about eating no more than 18 ounces of red meat per week. Following this standard might decrease the amount of carcinogen-containing meats you eat by default. In fact, some researchers suspect HCA heterocyclic amines that form when cooking protein-rich foods and PAH polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which form when coal, oil, or gas is being burned may be partly responsible for increased colon cancer risk.
So we also are exposed to the news here and there on the controversial issues regarding the importance and the opposite side of coffee. So some claim that it can prevent cancer, and some also said that it may contribute to the risk of the cancer. So what is your opinion about this?
Yeah, coffee also became the myth victim that has been said to increase the risk of cancer due to its chemical contents, such as acrylamide and also caffeine. However, recent evidence suggests that coffee might help prevent cancer and even contribute to longevity. Several new studies also suggest that coffee helps prevent breast, prostate, head, and neck cancers. Other than that, coffee also revealed to reduce the risk of uterine, endometrium, and liver cancers. Moreover, one analysis by the International Head and Neck Cancer Epidemiology Consortium found that people who drank about 4 or more cups a day had a 39% decreased risk of oral cavity and pharynx cancers combined. In another study, Harvard University researchers presented data showing that men who drank the most coffee showed a 60% decrease in legal and advanced prostate cancers. Results of a third study published in the January issue of the same journal showed decreased risk of gliomas or brain tumors associated with coffee. And yet, a fourth study in the April 2008 found that at least 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day can reduce the risk of breast cancer or delay its onset. From all these studies, it could not conclude that drinking coffee is indeed carcinogenic based on the current evidence available.
Oh, so I can see that coffee actually may not contribute to the risk of the cancer. So, but what is the bottom line when it's come to coffee? Should people be worried to drinking it?
So as mentioned, most recent research found that there was no correlation between consuming coffee and cancer. Although coffee contains acrylamide, which is known as carcinogenic, studies also revealed that there was no correlation between acrylamide intake and the risk of cancer. Overall, it seems that coffee may contribute to several health benefits, but how could it act as chemoprevention? It is because coffee has anti-cancer properties that contain various antioxidant and phenolic compounds. However, we must note that the risk remains unclear as further research may be needed to clearly understand the biologic mechanisms associated with coffee drinkers, acrylamide exposure, and also cancer risk.
Miss Ain, so I have read a few articles on eating meat that can contribute to the risk of cancer. So, however, we also know that red meat is one of the important elements in our diet as it is rich in protein and also helps to build up our muscle, our bone. So what would you say about this?
Yes, I've noticed that too. According to AICR, the consumption of red meat more than 510 gram, which count for approximately 18 ounces per week, can increase the risk of colorectal cancer. However, there were no research found yet on how exactly red meat contributes to the development of colorectal cancer. There is a study that shows the consumption of red meat that is cooked at high temperature not only increase the risk of colorectal cancer but also associated with increased risk of advanced but not localized prostate cancer. So the question is that what happened to our red meat when we cook it at high temperature? Actually, red meat does contain compounds that promote cancer. And just like what I have mentioned before, that cooking red meat at high temperatures such as grilling or barbecuing may produce mutagenic and carcinogenic substances. What are these two substances? It is a heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon that research have shown clear indication of mutagenicity and carcinogenicity. For sure, when we think about red meat, the first thing that comes to mind is protein, right? But people tend to forget or do not know the existence of other important minerals or vitamins such as zinc and vitamin B12, which help to promote our immune systems and keep healthy red blood cells. So, the best way is not to avoid it. Actually, we have to minimize it as much as possible following the recommended requirement, as red meat also needed as one of the important parts of our diet. Now, I want to emphasize the processed meat, which are the other category of red meat. It is basically a processed meat such as hot dogs, sausages, or other lean meat that has been dried to prevent spoilage. I'm very sure that Malaysians really love to treat this kind of meats as their delicious snack. As evidence, we can find this everywhere in Malaysia, such as in pasar malam as well as in school canteens. Here, I want to highlight that processed meat unfortunately associated with cancer, specifically colorectal cancer. This may be due to the compound used in processed meat such as preservatives that may change cancer-causing agents in the body. Thus, it should be avoided, as simple as that.
Thank you, Ms. Ain, for the explanation. So next we will talk about sugar. So increasing the intake of sugar and also consuming milk and dairy products also can increase the risk of the cancer. This is very shocking because I know that meats and dairy products contain various health benefits. So is it true, Ms. Ain? What will you say about this?
Ladies and gentlemen, for the people who do not know that diet high in sugars could contribute to the increase of calorie intake, which will then promote weight gain and this lead to obesity. But how does it link to the development of cancer? So high sugar intake did not directly contribute to cancer, but the relation between sugar and cancer is that sugar lead to obesity, which in turn would favoring insulin resistance and elevated levels of bioactive insulin like growth factors 1, leptin, sex steroid hormone, and pro-inflammatory factors that increase risk of several cancers. For instance, in a meta-analysis of cohort studies, sugar-sweetened beverages increase insulin as well as glucose level in metabolic syndromes such as diabetics and obesity, which have been found to be related to pancreatic cancer. Furthermore, increased intake of fructose associated with higher risk of pancreatic cancer as well. However, study also found that sugary drinks have not been found to be directly related to the risk of colon cancer or other cancers. it should be highlighted that calorie restriction, yes, calorie restriction can suppresses this carcinogenic process, thus reduce calorie intake by limiting the intake of sugar was encouraged to the public. Whereas for the milk and dairy products, to begin with, the cows had been bred in order to produce higher level of insulin like growth factor 1 and thus increase the milk production. In correlation to that, the effect of milk consumption on plasma IGF-1 predicts the increased risk of prostate and breast cancer. Other than that, total dairy intake also associated with increased risk of endometrial cancer in postmenopausal women who's not receiving any hormone therapy and lead to finding possibly related to the sex hormone content of dairy product. In a meta-analysis study, the milk consumption was inversely related to colorectal cancer, potentially owing to its high calcium content. To conclude, there were major limitations of the existing literature, which almost all prospective studies have been initiated with among percent in midlife or later.
Alright, it seems now we no longer can solely blame sugar and dairy products as the cancer starting point. So what we could say actually that excessive intake of this food could contribute to obesity, which only then become a risk factor of cancer. So to conclude what we have discussed earlier, coffee, red meat, sugar and carcinogen were now found to be unrelated to cancer. People need to be acknowledged with these new findings as we have already grown up to the fact that this kind of food can be root of cancer. So we as a healthcare professional carry the responsibility to educate the public on these new updated facts. So alright, before we continue on further discussion, we are about to take a break for 2 minutes and we'll be right back after the commercial break. So stay tuned.
The myth I want to talk about today is the one that says red meat is bad for you. And I think the information out there can be quite misleading.
But first, it was a sobering day for meat lovers, especially in a country that ranks second in the world for eating the most meat.
Now, to be clear, there is some truth to this myth, but it's not that all red meat is bad for you. In October 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer brought together 22 experts from 10 different countries and came to the conclusion that processed meats carry the greatest risk for cancer, specifically colorectal cancer. Processed meats were classified as a Group 1 carcinogen alongside UV radiation, tobacco, and alcohol. However, there is a difference between processed and unprocessed meats. Processed meats are meat that has been modified with curing, smoking, or salting. This includes hot dogs, pepperoni, salami, sausages, bacon, deli meat, jerky, and even canned meats. These are also usually higher in salt and fat than unprocessed meat. Unprocessed meat includes steaks, pork chops, lamb shanks, and other cuts that have not been prepared or preserved in this way. The experts also found that just 50 grams a day of processed meat can increase your risk of cancer by 18%. That translates to roughly 4 strips of bacon or 1 hot dog a day. While eating like this isn't going to be recommended by any dietitian or nutritionist, instead, eating unprocessed red meat in moderation can be a part of a healthy diet. But to take it one step further, opt for grass-fed red meat as much as possible. So there you have it, 3 of the most common food myths explained.
Hi, we are back to our webinar, which the topic is Debunk the Cancer Nutrition Myth. Thank you for staying with us. So we are still with our 2 panels, Ms. Shafika and also Ms. Ain. So just now we were discussing the common myths regarding food that the public believe that could treat cancer, and also which include the red meat, coffee, sugar, and also carcinogen. So however, we also heard that there are foods that people believe have a protective effect from cancer, and the public were are taking this seriously regarding what kind of food they are consuming or buying. So, but somehow the studies found the opposite. What do you think about this, Ms. Ain? Have you heard or read anything on social media regarding this issue? And is it true or it is just another myth?
Thank you, Miss Alina. As well known, social media is a huge platform to share good information such as TikToks, Instagram, Facebook, and other social platforms. However, some of the information is not fully shared. People sometimes misunderstood the important parts. One of the things that I have read is there are specific diets that could lower the risk of getting cancer. Epidemiological studies give clues about the possible relationship between diet and cancer. There is a trend practicing an alkaline diet or alkaline diet. The main idea of the diet is to reduce environment in the body and prevent cancer from developing. The diet does encourage an individual to eat healthily owing to the emphasis on fruits and vegetables and avoidance of processed food, so it does help with weight loss. However, it does not have a strong influence over the pH balance of your body. Your body is very good at maintaining its pH levels without dietary influence. It would be nearly impossible to alter the cell environment to create a less acidic environment in our bodies. For example, the stomach. Our stomach is very acidic for proper digestion, so we wouldn't want it more alkaline. This is one of the facts that everyone misunderstood due to lack of explanation. So what I want to conclude, or I can conclude, is it might be a myth as there was still no research finding regarding these issues.
Yes, there are many correlations between different foods in the diets. So, Ms. Shafika, my friends once advised me that eating chocolate surprisingly can protect me from cancer. So I was in like a dumb at first until I searched for the study. So, however, it is still confusing because some studies say that cocoa can lead to cancer, while others studies say that chocolate is beneficial. So, what is the truth what is the truth behind this, Ms. Shafika?
Well, both versions that you have read are actually not wrong. Dark chocolate contains high flavonoids, high concentrations of beneficial flavonoids that may reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and certain cancer. Some studies conducted in Europe, Asia, and North America have found that people who eat a diet rich in flavonoids from chocolate or cocoa have lower incidence of cancer than those who eat fewer flavonoids. While these studies suggest a link between dark chocolate consumption and a lower risk of heart disease and cancer, they do not prove the cause and effect. Even if the result of such a study came out in cocoa's favor, all chocolate is not created equal. To make many popular chocolate products, including milk chocolate candies, cocoa powder, and chocolate syrup, manufacturers often processes cocoa by roasting it, fermenting it, and treating it with alkali. These processes can remove most of the beneficial flavonoids from chocolate. Additionally, milk products such as those found in milk chocolate can hinder the body's ability to efficiently absorb flavonoids and antioxidants from chocolate. So, chocolate is relatively high in saturated fats and calories, and that has the potential to contribute to weight gain if snacked upon religiously. And numerous studies have shown that being even modestly overweight can increase a person's risk of that only has pure cocoa butter.
Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Shafika. So this is a new information for me, and I believe this is also new information to all of us. So I guess I need to give up on milk chocolate now and start looking for dark chocolate instead, I think. All right, so Ms. Ain, we are back to you. We can observe that nowadays a lot of health brands are starting to produce product consists of multivitamins in hope that it will boost their sales. So it has already come to our knowledge that vitamins have various benefits to our health, from strengthening our immune system to the points that it has a protective role against cancer. So could you explain more about this?
I also heard all the claims about the protective role of vitamins or specific vitamins from the media to the pharmacies. For example, vitamin C. Few studies have adequately measured intake, but claims have been made based on differences in consumption of various types of fruits and vegetables. Same data have also been used to promote the protective effect of vitamin A. Even fewer data are available for vitamin E and selenium because intakes are difficult to document. However, an update analysis which was featured in the October 12th issue of JAMA, it was described that vitamin E supplementation can significantly increase the risk of prostate cancer. To date, the evidence is still small to suggest that this nutrient will prevent cancer. For vitamin C supplementation, we found an increased breast cancer risk of 16% and 46% respectively in the Women Health Initiative Observational Study Cohort and in a nested case control study. Regarding vitamin A, Mohammed and his colleague in their case controls found an increased risk of breast cancer of 86% considering any use of supplements. This effect may be due to an increment of oxidative damage. A result from the nutritional prevention of cancer trial conducted among individuals at high risk of non-melanoma skin cancer also continue to demonstrate that selenium supplementation is ineffective at preventing basal cell carcinoma and that it increases the risk of squamous cell carcinoma and total non-melanoma skin cancer. Thank you.
Sure, the intake of vitamins should follow the recommended guidelines. So either is it insufficient or excessive, both will eventually lead to harmful effect to our body. So thank you again to Ms. Ain. Alright, what we can conclude in that specific diets, cocoa and vitamins do have a protective effect on cancer. However, we must highlight that the amount of intakes need to be taken into account. Everything has a borderline, and same goes to nutrition. If there is something that come to confusion, seek help from the healthcare professional. Last but not least, always check your facts before sharing information and explain in the simplest way for the public to understand, especially in the social media. So now we are open for the Q&A session. If any of the audience have something in mind regarding the cancer nutrition, feel free to ask and maybe share with us. Me and both the panelists are eager to hear or to answer your question. Ladies and gentlemen, as the last question has been answered, we finally arrived at the end of our webinar. It has been a great sharing session from our two panelists, debunking the myth of the cancer nutrition. So we would like to thank the audience for lending your time and also your ears for attending this sharing session. So we do hope that this webinar could really help to educate and to enhance your knowledge regarding diet and also cancer. So remember to check your fact before delivering an important issues. So we should actually be responsible for what we need to say, especially when it's come to the public health. So before we end this webinar, I would like to invite you guys to complete the post survey again regarding your understanding about this topic. Thank you for your cooperation and thank you for attending this webinar, and have a nice day. Thank you.